Kembu natatanzambi yamanzulu. Welcome once again to the channel. In this episode, I have a very special guest. Yes, I reached out to him after I read his books. I was very inspired. I have with me Dr. Kiatezua Luyaluka. He is someone who did research for many years in divine metaphysics and now teaches his own approach of African traditional spirituality in healing and of the fight against witchcraft within the frame of Nzila Loa, which is an institution which he pioneered. So Dr. Luyaluka, welcome to the platform. Thank you for accepting my invitation. So I invited you to teach us and to give us more information about the mystery schools of ancient Congo, as we talk about the Lamba and the Kimpasi and the Kingba. Yeah, so once again, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. And it's a pleasure for me to join this platform in order to speak about the Congo mystery teaching. When I speak about mystery teaching, I take the word mystery in its Grecian meaning, Greek meaning, as a body of teachings leading to illumination, a knowledge that allows one to develop his spiritual abilities. To speak about the Congo mystery teaching is to allude to the initiatory schools, their nature, content, and organization. So let us speak first about the Congo religion. Mystery teachings were essentially centered on religion. So let me first clarify the notion of religion according to the mind of the Congo people. When in the 17th century, the Portuguese reached the coast of the Congo River, the coast of the Congo Kingdom. Their first intent was to introduce their religion, the Catholic Christianity, to the people they met, the Congo people. Due to the difficulty of communication, the Congo people had to think about the new concept that was being brought to them. So after thinking, they told the Portuguese that what you call religion is the equivalent of our Nkisi or local Nkisi. Now, for the Congo people, religion means Nkisi. The word Nkisi here has not to be taken as meaning fetish. Fetish means something artificial. And that is reduced meaning. In its true denotation, the word Nkisi means power and spirit. Has power, Nkisi becomes in plural Minkisi. And has spirit, Nkisi becomes in plural Bakisi. So we have two denotations of the same word. Nkisi has power and Nkisi has spirit. So according to those two denotations, religion for the Congo people is the institution that allows them to use the divine spirits, the Bakisi, in order to develop the power that is the divinity that Nzambi Ampungu Tulendo, the Most High, has embedded in each one of us. In his book about the Congo martial initiation, the Kingba, Leo Bitremier, a Catholic priest, gives us a classification of the Nkisi as spirits. In this classification, he starts with Nzambi Ampungu Tulendo as the highest transcendent spirits.
Mm-hmm.
And then come the Bikinda, or the celestial and eternal spirit manifestation of Nzambi Ampungu. Celestial spirits has the eternal manifestation of Nzambi Ampungu Tulendo. These spirits, the Bikinda, are also called the Loas. These must remind you the Loas of the Haitian voodoo. At the third level comes the Bakisi. These are the temporal manifestation of the Bikinda, the celestial spirits. So this is a hierarchy of spirits in the Congo religion, the BUKONGO. And thus we understand that religion for the Congo people is the use of the Bakisi in order to recover one's lost divinity. The supreme purpose of human beings is to recover the divine nature they have lost since their own initial bad use of their God-given free will. So according to BUKONGO, the Congo religion, human beings are in reality divine. You and I are in reality divine beings. But sin, the bad use of free will, has reduced this spiritual nature to a mere potential state. Hence, religious practice is essentially about how to purify oneself in order to become a manifest expression of the divinity. How to purify oneself in order to become a child of God.
Mm-hmm. And
one must
ask
first.
Question,
please.
So when we talk about sin, in the Kikongo, you have the word Olingala Sumu, which
yes,
can also.
I included that in. I will speak about that just in the.
Okay.
Moment.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
So one must first notice the equivalence of the Congo notion of Nkisi and the Igbo notion of Chi, which alludes also to the concept of power and of spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the Congo, the Congo, the religion of the Igbo of Nigeria perceives the highest Chi as being God the Most High. When we speak of sin in connection with Congo or with African traditional religion, some people think that it is a borrowing from Christianity. No, our ancestors knew about the concept of sin.
Mm-hmm.
To vanquish sin was at the center of the praxis of their religion. These can be seen in the following arguments. Firstly, the concept of sin is semantically well rooted in Kikongo. Has to mean that it is not a borrowed one. Sin is in Kikongo sumu. It stems from the verb suma. Suma means to plant, to put in the soil. The antonym of suma is sumuna, and sumuna means to uproot. The fact of being uprooted is designated as sumuka. Now we know that when a plant is uprooted, it is condemned to death. But that is to be uprooted is sumuka. Now sumuka means also to sin. So we have here the doctrine that sin leads to death. And this is well rooted in the Kikongo semantics. The second argument is this one. The Congo people knew about the commandments of God. And in the western part of the Kingdom of Congo, God's commandments were called Congo. They used the same name to call their nation, and to call the commandments of God has to mean that ethical and spiritual living was essential to the prosperity of the Congo nation. If that notion of sin, of sumu, was taught to them by the white people, it would be abnormal to affix this to the name of the nation, because it will denote a kind of superiority to the white people. So it was an indigenous notion. The third argument is this one. According to the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the purpose of the African initiate has always been to become an Osiris, that is a child of God, a manifest expression of the divinity. And the means of achieving this is to live a life of purity. And this is illustrated in the fact that in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Osiris Ani claims the right to become an Osiris because he has lived a life of purity, of victory over sin. But this man was already called Osiris. His name is Osiris Ani, and he is claiming the right to become an Osiris. This means that he was an Osiris, a child of God potentially. And now he's claiming the right to be a child of God in a manifest way because he lived a life of victory over sin. Now, this doctrine is the very one which is taught in 1 John chapter 3, verse 1 to 3, where we read that we are children of God, but what we shall be has not yet been manifested. And we know that what we shall be is children of God. So we are so now potentially, and we are going to become so manifest in a manifest way if we purify ourselves. So we have the same teaching. And when one joined the initiation of BUKONGO, his purpose was to become a child of God in a manifest way, and the means was purification. So we realize here that the very same schema is used by ancient Egypt, biblical Israel, and the Congo people. Therefore, one understands that the purification of thoughts is the essential practice of the Congo religion. And it has always been the essential practice of true African traditional religion since ancient Egypt. Let us now speak about the Congo religious institutions.
Yes.
There were no temples. There were no temples in the Kingdom of Congo before the arrival of the white people. There were no temples in the Kingdom of Congo. However, two institutions participated in the instilling and maintenance of the spiritual and ethical elevation of the people. The first was the initiatory schools, and the second was the family circle. We take the word family in its extension has to mean the clan, Kanda.
Kanda.
There were two kinds of authorities among the Congo people, but the political authority, Mfumumfu, and the spiritual authority, Nganga Tomi, or Kitomi. The highest political authority was the king, while the higher spiritual authority was the high priest. This latter was always named according to his clan, Ntaku Nevunda. In fact, the king and the high priest rule in the name of the clan. When you hear about King Alvaro, that was the Portuguese influence. When you hear about Zinganku, that is the name of his clan. So he was a person ruling in the name of his clan, and the clan was the clan Zinganku. Thus, the highest power in the Kingdom of Congo was vested in the high priest, because he was the receptor of the divine inspiration or divine inspirations coming from holy ancestors and leading the nation. This pattern was replicated at the level of the Kanda, the extended family. So now about the Congo initiatory academies. There were among the Congo people three kinds of initiatory academies. The schools of mystery teaching, teaching that leads to illumination, spiritual elevation. These academies were the custodian and perpetrators of the higher knowledge bequeathed by our ancestors, the spiritual knowledge. This knowledge is an exact science. And I'm going to prove this later. So the first academy is the Kimpasi.
The Kimpasi.
The bastion of the Kimpasi. The locus of the Kimpasi was the north of Angola and the southern bank of the Congo River. So it extended from the north of Angola to the southern bank of the Congo River. In terms of importance, these were the greatest of the Congo academies because its teachings were found in the other mystery schools in the Lamba, the School of Civil Initiation, and in the Kingba, which was the martial schools. All those who went to these two schools had first to learn the teachings of Kingba, the divine mystery. The term Kingba means nowadays suffering, but its true meaning is wealth. This meaning has been lost in Congo, but it can be found in other ethnic which are akin to the Congo people, for example, the Chokwe and the Bakuba. So Kimpasi means wealth.
Wealth, yes.
This shows that the divine teaching was the greatest wealth of the Congo people. And that's why the Egyptians did never teach this wealth to the Grecian. They used to keep it from them, from foreigners. This explains also the southward migration of the Bantu people has intended to hide this knowledge. The Bantu people were the first one to leave Egypt and to come southward in order to hide the divine teaching as an exact science.
Wow.
The Kimpasi was the school that trains the prophets. So it was the school of the prophets. From this school came great prophets like Kingba Vita. The great postulate of Kimpasi is that when in the beyond, one takes the decision to be born in this plane, he has already at this mental level a path well traced in front of him, well traced by Nzambian Mpungu to Lendo. However, from that mental stage of his trip to this lower plane, the evil minds who are in the beyond or here on earth will try hard to kick him out of the spiritual path. So the purpose of the initiation of the Kimpasi was to help this kind of person to find back his God-given destiny. This school, the Kimpasi, admitted the male and female candidates. 3 conditions led to inclusion into the initiation of Kimpasi. First of all, financial ability, because the tuition was very high. I know that a scholar speaks about years of the wage of some years of labor, so that the clan had to contribute collectively in order to send a person in the initiation. So the first condition was the financial one, because it was very expensive. The second kind of person who were induced in the initiation were those who were often sick. It was believed that when a person is often sick, it is a sign that he has a good destiny, and evil minds are trying to keep him from exercising his mission. So such persons were initiated in order to help them recover their health and also perform their mission.
Hmm.
The last class of people who were introduced are those who happen in the initiatory forest to meet the candidate. It was forbidden to enter the initiatory forest. If someone happened in that forest to meet a candidate in the initiation, he was condemned to get into the initiation, and thus condemned also to pay the high tuition. So those were the three conditions that led to an inclusion in an initiatory session. Now let us speak about the Lamba. While the Kimpasi was the greatest academy in terms of spiritual importance, the Lamba was the greatest in terms of expansion. And it was also the greatest of the Congo civil academies, because there were other civil academies aside from the Lamba. There were the Buelo, and in Angola, there were also a trade school whose name has not been kept. We know the presence of this trade school by the practice of trade that was made by the sons of those initiates. They used to say, Inkweno Mbalu, Kiluta Katula, Kikonda Yika, which means that one has to be strictly honest in business. We know that business is not done that way nowadays.
Yes.
So that means that divine teaching was at the base of the practice of trade among the Bazombo and the Santala of Angola. But the name of that school has not been kept. The Lamba, the schools of Lamba were found in the north of the Congo River. However, their influence extended to the south of the river because the Bandibu sub-ethnics were astride of the Lamba and the Kimpasi. So both initiations were found among the Bandibu. Now let us speak about the third kind of initiation, the Kingba. This academy reigns at the western part of the Kingdom of Congo.
Yeah, you still there? I think you're frozen.
Walking or physical endurance.
So can you repeat what you just said?
An academy of physical endurance, that is a military academy. The second thing is the symbolism of the python, Mboma. The Mboma is the central symbol of Kingba. And now you know that the python has always been a martial symbol in African tradition. This can be seen in ancient Egypt as well as in the Vodou of Benin, or the So. This can be seen also in the So of the Beti in Cameroon. An anthropologist speaking about the So initiation, he said that it included the vein python. And he said that this initiation was similar to a military training. The commander of an army is called among the Congo people
Maboma.
Ngamboma, Huamboma, or Mamboma, which means the owner of the python.
Mm-hmm.
This clearly shows that the python
possessor.
stood
Mm-hmm.
power. The word Boma means also a shelter or a military barrack. A military barrack.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we have it in the area, in the western part of the Congo Kingdom, we have a town called Boma, which means that that area
Yes.
was a military area. The other thing is that at the completion of his initiation, the candidate of King Kingba has to be licked by two small snakes, a male and a female one. The other thing is the rainbow. The rainbow is perceived in the Congo nation as a snake whose head and tail are in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And this means that the true martial power are to be found in the water.
In the waters.
In Kalunga, yes. In the Mpeba, which is the word of the ancestors.
Kalunga.
In other terms, means the true martial power was divine, mm-hmm. and to be gained through spiritualization of thoughts. Another argument is this one. The prime minister of the Luango, one of the federal states of the Kingdom of Congo, was called Mamboma.
Mamboma.
And explaining this word, the director of the Museum of Luango says that he had the chama, and the chama is the rainbow in Vili. So he had the chama, has the protective power of the land. So you see, the python symbolized by the rainbow is a protective sign, which imply military might.
Mm-hmm.
The last point is that Bitremieux, in his book about King Kingba, speaks about the male tools that were found in the initiatory huts. And he said that among these tools were guns used for tournaments. And only people going through a martial initiation will use guns for tournaments. Like the Lamba, the King Kingba was training essentially male candidates. These three initiatory academies were foundational to the Congo nation because by them were trained the elite of the Congo nation, Congo Kingdom. Now, I spoke about the Congo religion and the religion of ancient Egypt as being an exact science. Mm-hmm. It is time for me to prove this. In order to prove this, we are going to use what I call the Kemetic cosmological argument. A cosmological argument is an argument used to demonstrate the existence of God. And this kind of argument were used since the time of Plato, the Grecian philosopher. Mm-hmm. However, as it is used in the Western civilization, in the Western practice of science, the cosmological argument never happened to demonstrate the existence of the Most High God. It only demonstrates the existence of a creator, full stop. but it cannot prove that the Creator is effectively the Most High God, which is the postulates they use in the West. They conceive God as being the Most High Creator. Now, after finishing our theological study, I began to think about cosmological argument and to use it in order to demonstrate the existence of God as conceived by Black people, which means a Most High God different from the Creator. This is how I came to do it. I used two premises. The first is the existence of individuality. You are an individual being, I'm an individual being, so we live in an individual universe. And I used also the law of causality, which says that to an effect corresponds an adequate and anterior cause. Now, the fact that we are individual beings in this universe implies that this universe is an individual one. Because this universe is an individual one, it is the work of an individual creator. Now, the individual nature of that creator implies the existence of other similar beings who are at least potentially creators. It means that they may have not yet created the universe. That is not a problem, but they exist. Now, here I take an hypothesis. This hypothesis is not indispensable. I just take it for the sake of brevity, of concision. We take as hypothesis that every creation exists in its creator. So from that hypothesis, if we take the sum total of the manifest and potential creators, we have a being who is the greatest possible being, because any creation we can imagine will be in its creator, and the creator will be in that being. So that being has the greatest possible one, is the supreme being. So we have up to here two kinds of entities: the potential and manifest creators and the greatest possible being, who we conceive as being the supreme being. Now, being the greatest possible being, as the greatest possible being, God must be indivisible and immutable. If the supreme being were divisible, there should be a principle of his divisibility. And according to the law of causality, that principle must be greater than God, that is greater than the greatest possible being, which is impossible. So God is indivisible. However, we know that each creator expresses an individuality included in God. Now, God is indivisible. This means that each creator manifests the fullness of God, but in an individual manner. That fullness of God is what we call the Logos. So we have a third entity, the Logos. The Logos is the fullness of the supreme being manifested in the potential and manifest creators. So let's call, if we call the supreme being the Father, Mother, because divinity were always conceived as male and female, and we will call the creators the children of God, and we have the Logos. We have three entities. Now, this theism, this argument, I can enlarge it in order to develop all the essential teaching of a salvational religion. But let me stop here and make a comparison with BUKONGO and the region of ancient Egypt. We have seen that there are three kinds of celestial being. The supreme being, who is indivisible, and he is also transcendent. Transcendent means that he knows neither evil nor death. He doesn't know evil. If God, the Most High, knew evil, due to his indivisibility and infinite nature, he will be infinitely good and infinitely bad, which is not possible. So God is transcendent, which means he knows neither evil, he knows not evil. Now, in ancient Egypt, the Most High God was known, even though he was not named. In the book of the pyramid, he is called the Soul Lord. And in the book of the dead, he is called the One Lord. And God in ancient Egypt was considered as transcendent, so that prayers were never addressed directly to him. The highest God to whom prayer were directly addressed are the children of God, the manifest and potential creators, the Ra, as they were called in Egypt. And one of them, the creator of this temporary universe, was called either Amon or Aton, depending on the district. So the creator was called Amon, and he was called also at Memphis Aton. And the Logos was called Ptah. And those three, Ptah, and those three entities are celestial. Now we have the same in the BUKONGO. The Most High among Congo people was called Nzambi Ampungu Tulendo. The creator is called Mumba Loa. Those are two different entities. And the true, in BUKONGO, the true initiates didn't address the prayer directly to Nzambi Ampungu Tulendo. No, the prayers were addressed to the Loa, the Loas, or the creators, the children of God, one of whom is Mumba Loa, the creator of this temporal universe. In BUKONGO, we have also the notion of the Logos. This notion is celestial and temporal. At the celestial level, the Logos is called Mpinanza. And these three divinities have been revealed by a prayer of Simon Kimbangu, the prophet Simon Kimbangu, a prayer he made at the forest of Banzasanda. And in that prayer, we have those three essential divinities. So you see, we have the same theism in BUKONGO and in ancient Egypt. And this theism is scientific because it can be drawn deductively from a cosmological argument. Now, as I said, this argument can be extended to the essential doctrine of the religion of ancient Egypt and BUKONGO. So we come to the conclusion that this religion is an exact science. And the Egyptians were adamant about not showing this science to the creation. So that's why when they knew that they were ready to enter into a time of hibernation, because the Egyptian knew about the 3,000-year cycle. They knew that after 3,000 cycle, their way of thinking will go in hibernation, and the Western way of thinking will come forth. So when they reached the year minus 1,000, they knew that it was time for them to go to hibernation. So they had to hide what they held as most precious, their religion. The fact that this religion, this scientific religion, is found among the Bantu people, and especially among the Congo people, shows that they were the lost tribe of Israel and the caste of the priest of ancient Egypt. So the religion, the true nature of the religion of the Black people is an exact science. Why do we stress this nature? Because we speak about Pan-Africanism, and the Pan-Africanism aims the unity of the Black people. Sheikh and Diop say that unity have to be first cultural. But we have many cultures among the Black people. If we understand that the original nature of our religion is a science, science is something that unites peoples because science has a universal vocation. So by reestablishing the scientific nature in African traditional religion, we will bring the Black people together, and that will be the realization of the aim of Pan-Africanism. The other thing is that when I spoke about the 3,000-year cycle, according to that 3,000 years cycle, we are now at the moment where Black people must awake and become the leader in terms of science and technology. Many people will see this as impossible, but it is the time for us to awake. Simon Kimbangu said that the Black people will become white and the white people will become Black. He didn't mean a change of race, but he means an epistemological shift where the thinking of the Black people will become the dominant people. The fact is that with the cosmological argument, we can demonstrate the base of our science. The base of our science is that reality is spiritual, and we can prove this through the cosmological argument. But the base of the Western science is the belief that reality is material. Now they can never demonstrate that. It is just a belief. But ours is a demonstrable fact. So we have ground now to defend our traditional science and our traditional technology. Let me close this section by an example. One of my nephews was shot by a gang, and he was left with a double fracture of the femur. So we went to an hospital, a military hospital, and they told the cost for healing was too high for us to pay, and it would have taken 6 months in order to be completely healed. So I said, we are going to rely on traditional technology. So we called a traditional orthopedist, in short, the case was healed in 5 days. In 5 days, I said to my nephew, he was seated on the ground, and I said to him, raise your leg. He could raise his leg, a leg that has sustained 2 fractures of the femur, double fracture of the femur. So you see, when I mentioned this healing in a scientific paper, people from Chad, people from Ivory Coast, people from Cameroon told me that this technique is known in the nations.
Mm-hmm.
But why don't we defend this? Because we believe that we lack the tool to prove the existence of spirit. Now we have this tool, the kinetic cosmological argument. So it is time for us to awake, to defend our science and our technology, which is called by the white people witchcraft. No,
Casey.
it is not witchcraft. It is scientific practice based on the existence of the spirit, and we can now demonstrate the existence of spirit. So this is very important for us to understand.